Hello and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri.
And Amy Cornell.
And this is a show we've been wanting to do for a while. We love book awards. We get authors that ask us all the time, like, what about book awards? What about book awards? I think book awards are fabulous. So that's going to be the focus of this show. And we've had, you get that all the time too, don't you, Amy, where they're asking about book awards and stuff?
Oh, yes. And I'm glad we're doing this show because a lot of times I think authors get overwhelmed and think it's something that they don't have access to when they actually do.
Yeah.
So we actually get authors asking us a lot, like, do you guys do that? And I'm like, we can always talk about that depending on your campaign. Like, we try to help authors out and customize what kind of admin support they need and things like that. But these are actually very accessible. It's just a matter of figuring out, and we're going to talk about that, figuring out what works and making smart decisions about which ones to apply to and things like that. So we make sure that our clients have, I think we include a couple different really great lists that they can vet that they can decide like what matches up with their books and their qualifications and all the different parameters and things like that. But it really is something that, for all of you out there that are actually actively looking for homework and things to do to kind of take your book, your brand, your exposure to the next level, submitting yourself to book awards, put it on your list because I empower you all. You are very capable of this. Again, it's just about knowing how to go about it. And that's why we wanted to cover that on this show, because this is absolutely something an author can do to support their own success, whether they have a team supporting them in other ways or not.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, though, too, is that, a book award to a consumer, even if a consumer doesn't know, and let's say you got an honorable mention or you got first, second, or third place, whichever, mentioning that in your marketing materials and on your Amazon retail page can sometimes boost click-through rates up to 25% with an average bump, according to some research that we did prior to the show, of 5%. So the visibility of book awards, as I said, even if the consumer doesn't know the particular award, and the majority of consumers don't, like consumers know the Grammys, the Oscars, you know what I mean? Like we know like the Emmys, like we know those. But in terms of book awards, it's a great way, it's a great boost to your to your marketing. It's a great boost to the visibility of your book. And people like what other people like. So it's another piece, it's another great way to get in front of more readers and potentially even more reviewers. So right. I think go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
I was going to say, because we harp on the Amazon stuff all the time, it's also something that really makes you stand out on Amazon.
Yeah.
Because it's true. So few authors take advantage of these, and it's one of those. So I honestly, every time I visit a book page and there's a mention of an award, I absolutely perk up and take notice because you just don't see it a lot. So this is an amazing opportunity for those of you listening to really get in and be one of those authors that like, I do have an award and you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the first piece of this is, so I've judged for both IBPA's, what they used to call them Ben Franklin's. They renamed them recently. I don't know. I think they're just called the IBPA Awards now. And also Writer's Digest. And one of the things that I can say, one of the biggest first piece of this is that you may find an award that you think is super prestigious and you want to submit your book. Choose wisely. So not just, the majority of award programs are universal. So you can, if you fiction, nonfiction, poetry, memoir, whatever, they take them all, but they have different categories. Some awards, though, are very focused on specific genres. So that's the first piece of this, is you want to look out for this. But the second piece, and I can tell you this as someone who has judged awards, if you are submitting to an award for an award, be sure to pick the right genre. Mm. I cannot tell you. So I had for IBPA's, I think I did it 2 years ago, for their book awards, I got a lot of books. I picked the business category because it's something that I it's a genre that I read a lot of anyway. And I cannot tell you, I got memoirs, actually, I got a poetry book in the which it was poetry about work life, but I know, but
Sorry.
I couldn't. So you can't just give it like not everybody gets a trophy. Sorry, but it's the truth. If you're sitting in the wrong genre, if you submitted your book to the wrong genre, then you you're basically just going to get disqualified.
I know. And you want to be really careful about that because some of these do have submission fees, right, Penny?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's another thing. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just another, and again, that's why choosing wisely. And I mean, I would say not to tell y'all how to run your lives, but, go through and start with a list, maybe your top 10 or whatever, and then kind of whittle it down from there, based on what your budget is, things like that, what makes the most sense. You can see books that have won previously, almost always that information is public. Usually these sites are proud to show books that have won before. So I think that's also something to keep in mind. Check out books that have won before, look at their covers, consider all those things and try to figure out what makes the most sense for how your book is placed in the market and your current branding and all those kind of things really should come into play.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And a lot of times, so many of these contests, the other thing that I that I really liked about judging is you're not just looking at the book and saying, oh, this is good or this is not good. The majority of these contests also invite judges to give feedback to the author. So it's also another really great way to get some potentially really good feedback. I mean, some of it obviously is going to be subjective, right? But it's another great way to get some really good feedback along with the opportunity to potentially win an award. So genre match, the other piece is going to be the publishing route. So traditional versus self-publishing. Some award companies are very particular about like, no, I mean, a lot of this has kind of fallen by the wayside because so many people are independently publishing, but sometimes just make sure to read the rules. That's just the other piece of it,
Mm-hmm.
If you're submitting to award companies, for awards rather, not necessarily award companies, so the Alliance of Independent Authors we're not going to go through all the awards that we like or don't like. And I always send authors, right? Because,
Even though that could be fun.
I know, Amy and I have strong feelings about just about everything, but the Alliance of Independent Authors, and if you search this on Google, and we can also put it in the show notes for sure, but if you want to, if you've hopped off and you're like, oh, I'm ready to do this, the Alliance of Independent Authors actually have a page that they keep updated. It's super helpful, and I send this to authors all the time, and it lists awards, particulars like, do they take only traditionally published? Are they genre specific? It's a really, really great way to figure out where you might want to submit to. The other thing is going to be the date. So many awards are date sensitive. So they don't want, if your book is 5 years old, you may be kind of out of the running for that. But for any new-ish books, even a year old, there's probably a ton of award companies that you can submit to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's worth making sure, and I'm sure the list that you mentioned, Penny, is updated regularly, but I think it's definitely worth also doing a little research to see if there are any awards that are very specific to because there are awards for inclusivity for emerging authors too. So specifically for debut authors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there are awards for that specifically. There are awards for authors in different demographics, different markets, things like that are always opening up. And so it is definitely worth seeing, because what I love about those options is that sometimes you end up being a fish in a smaller pond versus some of these really, really big ones where absolutely go after that if it fits, if all the parameters work for you. There's nothing wrong with that by any means. but there's also no reason not to take advantage of being a part of a potential award for very specific writing communities as well, because those can be really great for your brand, especially if those are also your readers, because that makes a difference too. As Penny said, a lot of readers don't necessarily know all the big name awards, and what they mean. But there are certain awards that are going to stand out to certain reading demographics as well. And that could be really great for your brand and just creating that added connection and resonating with those particular reading communities as well. So absolutely look for those.
Yeah. And it's also potentially because a lot of these awards, well, many of these awards, I should say, not they also have events where they give out the awards, and so if you've won or you're on the honor. And by the way, honorable mentions, don't discount honorable mentions, because I will tell you that when I have judged for contests, sometimes it's really, really hard to say these are my top three because the books that get sent are so good. It's a high quality problem to have. So in those cases, some of these books then they'll go I get the first tier of them and then they go to somebody else. A lot of times the honorable mentions are just because the book was fantastic, but maybe there was one thing that somebody thought, oh, this one is just slightly better than the other. So honorable mentions are also terrific, but they have events a lot of times that you can go to. It's great for networking, great for meeting people, great for getting out of your comfort zone, right? Just be aware that, and the thing is do your research on the LE website. So it's really funny because prior to the show, I went on the ChatGPT, just curious. I'm like, hey, tell me about some book awards. I was super curious about book awards. And ChatGPT threw out the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, we're not. So the Alliance of Independent Authors is a great trusted resource where they do the vetting. So just make sure, like I said, that you're finding, awards that are actually going to be actionable, that you can actually submit to. And then I guess the final piece of this, Amy, unless you thought of something else, but the final piece is going to be your packet. So every award that you submit to is going to have you submit some kind of a packet, right? And sometimes it's just in some cases, it's just, write a description about your book. Sometimes they'll ask for the elevator pitch about your book, which that's actually another show that we need to do is on elevator pitches, because I think we've alluded to the fact that we were going to do a show on elevator pitches, and we are adding that to the list. So that'll probably be coming up in the next couple of weeks, but the materials are really important. So don't just, if you're in a rush to submit your award, don't rush through the materials. So if they allow you to include a press kit, make sure that it looks professional. Your book description, again, we have tons of shows on book descriptions. Cycle back through those and find those super important. They may ask you for, 1 to 2 sentence description about your book. Make that super good. You're going to want to tune into our elevator pitch show coming up in the next few weeks. To refine that. But the materials generally aren't extensive, but they are very, very important. So I've actually gotten submissions that I've, been ferreting through, and the submission information is basically blank, like the author name and the book title, and there's nothing else about the book, which is a little discouraging. And especially if you're spending your time judging, and it kind of sends a message to the judge, and I can speak to this firsthand, that you're really not interested, that you just sort of willingly sent this out. And then it's interesting because sometimes I'll go onto the Amazon retail page, and the book description on the Amazon retail page is 3 sentences. Right? They do.
They clearly don't listen to the show.
Yeah, right. They're not a listener of the show. Amy, did we cover everything?
Yeah, I think we did. I mean, I think the main points, like we said, this is very accessible to all of you listening. So add this to your list. I know there's a lot out there that's like, where do I start? What can I do? I feel like I'm spinning my wheels trying to support my book and figuring out how to get my footing and all that kind of stuff. The awards are actually very straightforward. And for those of you that thrive on rules and parameters and checklists, this is where you are going to shine. Just get a hold of these lists and start pulling out the ones that seem the most promising, whittle it down based on what really makes sense. Again, I think, quality over quantity here, Penny. I would say do a mix of some of the big ones and some of the genre specific ones. They do children's book awards specifically. I mean, there's just so many different ways to go about this, and give yourself an opportunity to kind of go after a few different versions of what's out there and see what comes of it. And for the most part, a lot of these, I mean, if your book is really, really old, but a lot of these also are open to you for a while. You know what I mean? So this is not something that if your book's already out, you're going, oh, I probably missed the boat. Not at all. So you could also do these in phases, I would think. If you don't want to take it all on at once, do it in phases, submit to some now, or as soon as you're able to get around to it, and then do some additional research and see where you might want to submit for phase 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like I said, check the show notes. We'll include the link so that you can find book awards, and really excited for you if you are going to take this journey of submitting to book awards. And let us know. Send us an email. Let us know. Our contact details are always in the show notes. Oh, and here's one really exciting thing that we are going to be doing in the coming weeks. I don't have an exact date for it, but we're going to start doing call-ins, not necessarily on the show, but we're going to give you the opportunity to leave a voicemail with your questions that we are then going to address on the air. So sometimes it's just easy. Like you're listening to the show, you're like, oh, I really want to know about such and such. Boom, you could dial the number and we'll pick a question for every show, and maybe a couple, who knows how many calls we get that we can answer on the show. And I'm really excited that we're going to be bringing that to you as we quickly approach our 6th year of doing this show, which is amazing. So
I know, I can't believe that.
I know, right? 6th year, what? That's so crazy. But anyway, listen, and we've gotten so many great reviews recently, and we have so many new listeners and people emailing us. In fact, we just got an email this morning from somebody who just found the show and is going back through the episode. So if you are new, welcome. We love that you're here. Be sure we have 5 years worth of shows to listen to. So be sure to go back to the archive and find a show that really inspires you, and then get caught up, and we will see you next Friday. Bye-bye.
Yes, excited. Bye.
Bye.